on a Friday night here at Home Park. Evenings here always have a little something special about them, and after a week away from playing, everybody here is desperate to impress tonight. The last 4 matches under the lights here on Argyle TV have ended very positively for Argyle. But Watford are the opponents today, and they will certainly be looking to upset the party. As always, this is the place to be to follow all of the action. Hello, good evening. I am Erin Black and you are watching Argyle TV. We are very pleased to have you with us and thank you for being here. Argyle have lost only the 1 game here at Home Park this season, and they could start the weekend off perfectly if they can get that 5th championship win here as well. Match passes, both audio and video, are available for you online should you wish to join us, and why wouldn't you? Head over to pafc.co.uk for all of the details on how to buy them and how to stream along with us. And joining me for all of the action this evening, I'm joined by none other than former academy coach and my Argyle TV Breakfast co-host, Aaron Kuzak. How are you?
Very well, Erin. Good evening.
Nice to be back. We were just saying before we went on air, it's a very nice night for it. There's something in the air that's a bit special.
Yeah, it's a cracking night. You know, it's a beautiful night to play football. There's no wind. You know, the pitch looks fantastic. It's just, there's something special about playing football at Home Park under the lights. So let's hope for a win, but also a cracker as well.
Yeah, and I mean, on a personal level, usually when we do the evening games coming into winter, it's either absolutely freezing and raining. And it is a bit on the cold side, but like you said, the atmosphere here is building, and we've had that week off, so everyone's looking forward to this one a little bit more as well.
Yeah, there's always an air of anticipation following a break, and you know, going back to the evening, I think it's perfect footballing conditions. The players will absolutely love the surface, the way that the evening's set up. You know, no doubt they were going to want to go out and put on a show for the home crowd, and hopefully 3 points.
Yeah. Well, as we said, Argyle desperate to keep that momentum going because, you know, it hasn't been a bad start at home for them this season. And, of course, we're seeing 2 former Man U teammates going up against each other tonight in the form of Rooney and Cleverley.
Absolutely. They met earlier in the season in the Cup, and Cleverley got the better of us on that occasion. But, you know, this will be very much a different game, an opportunity to showcase how difficult it should be for opponents to come to Home Park to collect 3 points. Like you said, we've only lost 1 at home so far this year. In previous years, it's become a real fortress, and obviously that's going to be catalyst for hopefully pushing forward. Yeah,
well, let's see then how the team is lining up after the international break. We start, as always, with your Argyle squad, and the starting 11 look a little bit like this. Dan Grimshaw, Barley Mumba, Julio Plegathuelo, Cornell Suge, Morgan Whittaker, Michael Obafemi, Lewis Gibson, Darko JB, Andre Gray, Adam Randall and Matthew Sorinola, and on the bench, Marco Morosi, Nathaniel Ogbeta, Jordan Houghton, Callum Wright, Mustafa Bundu, Adam Forshaw, Rami El Haj, Freddie Isaka and Victor Paulson. It's 2 changes for us, Aaron, since the last time we saw them out, and Lewis Gibson back and with the captain's armband.
Yeah, I think everyone will really want him back in the side. He was an absolute colossus before his injury, and you know, 2 changes. I think Callum Wright and Bundu have dropped to the bench this evening, but Andre Gray seems to have, you know, given his start as well. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see how they set up, whether they go to a back 3 or whether they go to a back 4. But it looks predominantly like they might go for a back 3.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a couple of interesting points about this. Obviously, Grimshaw, as you said, made his debut against Watford earlier this season, so you know he's going to want to continue the momentum of what we saw then.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think, you know, he was fantastic in that game. Other than that opening kind of error, which he's long forgotten, he has been fantastic, I think, since he's come in, and he put on a really good show that evening. Andre Gray as well is playing against his former Watford club, and naturally wants to put in a performance. Is a proven goal scorer at this level. I think a few years ago was the top scorer in the league. So has scored a goal already for Argyle, so hopefully he can, you know, put on a show this evening.
Yeah, I'm always interested in the dynamic, the psychology, you know, playing against a former team, because, you know, obviously you're going to have a soft spot for them, but at the same time you're going to want to do some damage and show what you can do for your new team. Yeah,
it's a good point you make, because naturally they're going to have an affliction and an association with their former colleagues and clubs and whatnot, but you know, naturally he's an employee of Plymouth Argyle now, so he's going to want to do his best for this club because he's got a short-term contract as well, Erin. So he's going to want to put in a show and to hope to extend that contract towards the back end of the season.
Yeah. And we see Freddie Osaka on the bench again. You know, he, I think, has really flourished under Wayne Rooney's mentorship, you know, as head coach this season. We're seeing him more and more as a consistent feature in the, you know, starting 11 or, you know, on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's been given his opportunity, irrelevant of age. You know, notoriously in football, people question age and whether people are too young, but Rooney was a 16-year-old when he made his debut anyway.
Yeah.
So he's not put off by Freddie's age. He thinks he's good enough, and he's thrusting him in that limelight. And hopefully, the more exposure he gets, the more comfortable he'll feel playing at this level.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unexpected for us to see, you know, any of the name. I mean, Rami Al-Haj again on the bench as well. He's been impressing so far this season. I think we've got a nice mix to pick from tonight. And like we said, only 2 changes from the last squad.
Yeah, and it's important to have a squad available where you know you can call upon any number of them at any moment. And what you want in a squad is variety and depth. And if you've got the variety where you can, you know, make a change in system, personnel if need to, that will happen at some point this evening.
Yeah.
Those players have got to be ready to come in and do what's required of them.
And this is the thing, because I think in recent weeks there felt like, you know, there was a noticeable difference in some big names getting injured, not being able to play. Joe Edwards, of course, is one of those that's still not match fit and won't be for a while. So it's nice that, you know, as we're rotating through the players, more and more of them feels like staples of the club.
Absolutely, and if you look at the last 4 games in particular, where we've been relatively lower in terms of personnel, the results haven't been too bad. You know, apart from the Leeds result, I think we're 1 defeat in 4. So the players who've come in have showcased that they're capable of playing at this level.
Yeah, and I think with Leeds as well, you know, we were expecting that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. Of course, tonight we are up against Watford. We have seen them before earlier on this year, but let's have a look at the team that they have brought with them for this championship fixture tonight. Daniel Bachman, Ryan Porteous, Matty Pollock, Georgie Chakvatadze, Imran Louza, Musa Sissoko, Vakun Bayo, James Morris, Kwadwo Bar, Yasser Larouci, Ryan Andrews, and on their bench, Jonathan Bond, Francisco Ciralta, Tom Ince, Rocco Vata, Ken Zima, Antonio Tikvich, Mamadou Doumbia, Edo Kiembe, and Leo Marirez Espain. 2 changes for them as well, Aaron. So, you know, not too much going on between either teams in terms of, you know, squads that they're happy with.
No, it's relatively consistent, isn't it? I think the 2 changes were enforced by Watford because of the players coming back from international duty, so they're not quite ready. The luxury for us is Kayembe, who's been left out, is second top scorer with 5. So, you know, they have got the threat in Bakun Bayo, who scored 6 goals already. So for me, it'll be a really testing duel between Soranola and Ryan Andrews and Larouci and Barley Mumba. I really think it'll be a good battle on the wings because both teams like to exploit wide areas, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you look at the stats. You mentioned some of the goal scorers there, and I think it's Bayo, you were saying about his goals, but a lot of them have come in the last 3 games.
Yes.
So it seems like he is on the rise at the moment. So
the last thing you want when you're playing against an opponent is when they come into form, because all of a sudden confidence goes through the roof and they feel that they can score from anywhere. So naturally they've got to be aware of the qualities he possesses, but if they can suffocate the chances and limit the chances to a minimum, then hopefully he doesn't score this evening.
Yeah, and Ciralta as well, back after suspension, and has also travelled straight here from international duty.
Right.
So, you know, we know, as you mentioned, you know, that some of the changes are because of the international duty we've seen, but I think coming straight here, yes, he's on the bench. It's probable that he might play. Just goes to show, you know, how fast-paced the turnaround is. Club, country, you know, things like that. There's a lot going on, and you've got to make it all work.
You've got to, and you know, he will be ready, no doubt, and called upon if needed to. But you do think how many time zones he's travelled from, and you know whether he's mentally ready, because they do so much more travelling nowadays than they used to. You know, we want to put on a show, obviously, to make sure that we try and, you know, take 3 points away from this game this evening. That pushes us towards the middle part of the table.
Yeah, I mean, if we run through some more of their stats, 22 goals conceded, so, you know, again, that is an opportunity for Argyle to capitalise on. They're not bringing this kind of fortress of defence. 8 wins, 1 draw and 6 losses, and they don't often draw. So Argyle here tonight at Home Park, they're going to want to be going for that win.
Absolutely, and if you look at their away record, they've won 2 and lost 6.
Yeah.
So all of their losses this year have come on the road, so they're not particularly good travellers. I know they won the 2 games ago, they beat Sheffield Wednesday 6-2 away from home, but then they lost to Swansea, so, you know, they're a little bit...
all over the place.
A little bit all over the place, basically, a little bit kind of erratic, I suppose is the right word, and it's just making sure that we don't allow them to get a foothold in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as me and Aaron mentioned earlier, Argyle keeper Daniel Grimshaw actually made his Argyle debut in the Carabao Cup game against Watford in August. And he has been ever present since and looks back at that first game with some mixed emotions.
Let's talk about Friday, the return after this international break. It's against the side you actually made your debut against for us in Watford. We're going to play you a couple of clips actually from that game. A game that started off probably not the best, but then got better. What can you remember from this?
I just remember looking forward to obviously the game. Knew finally got the registration done, and then obviously it didn't start off great. Everyone's probably thinking, like, who've we signed here? But,
but I mean,
it's just one of them things.
As a keeper, you're going to have him, aren't you?
Yeah, you're going to have him. It's going to happen probably more in my career, unfortunately. I wish I could say it wouldn't, but we all know it's going to happen at some point.
But then afterwards, Grimmy, it clearly didn't affect you.
No, I never. That's probably one of my strengths, I'd say. I don't really, whether things are going well or things are going bad, I don't really change the way I am. It always stays the same, quite level-headed, so I do what I needed to at the right time.
You know, when you do make a mistake like that, the goal, and you know, as you say, you kind of like it happens. Goes with the territory of being a goalkeeper. Can you remember in that game you thinking, right, I can't do another one of those, or do you just sort of wipe it?
No, yeah, I just wipe it really. Just thinking like it's probably the worst time for it to happen in a way. On your debut, you want to try and impress and do well. But yeah, I don't really think about it, or it doesn't really faze me because I know like it's just going to happen. Unfortunately for us as keepers, when we make a mistake, it ends up as a goal. But it's part of life. It's part of what's going to happen.
Of course, you know, for Dan Grimshaw, he's stepping into some big shoes following Michael Cooper. Obviously, we've got to mention Conor Hazard as well.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, since he's come in and he has had to establish himself as that staple, as the club's goalkeeper at present, you know, I think he's, you know, established himself as a top player.
Oh, absolutely. I think the one thing I think he's been really impressive, especially from my perspective, Erin, is his footwork. He's
lot of people have mentioned that.
He's almost like an additional outfield player because he's so good with his feet and he can pass. He's the first line of your build-up, and the modern-day goalkeeper has to be able to play with their feet. And you know, he's got a Man City upbringing, so he's learnt his craft with Ederson, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So, you know, that's a massive advantage to have a goalkeeper who's good with their feet, so that you can build from the back.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've certainly noticed from being, you know, present at the games is that all fans in general, or Argyle fans certainly in particular, they don't like it when the goalies hesitate. And, you know, we've had it previous where it's, you know, the ball might be going out this way and then they change their mind, whereas Dan Grimshaw's a bit more forthcoming with it, isn't he? He, like you said, he knows how to play with his feet. Yeah. He knows what he wants to do.
Well, that's exactly that. He knows what he wants to do, and because he trusts his own ability, his decision-making so far since he's come to the club has been outstanding. You know, I gave him praise, particularly against Blackburn the other week, where he made a splitting pass that took 6 Blackburn players out of the game, straight to Al Hajj's feet, right down the spine of the pitch. And, you know, that's deliberate, and that's impressive to have someone of that calibre to be able to build when you're being fully pressed.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, you know, really, when you try and break it down, because we know, I think Argyle possibly only 1 clean sheet, you know, so far, which doesn't look that great. But when you look at the kind of calibre of opposition and the type of goals that Dan Grimshaw has successfully kept out, yes, obviously he has conceded some. It is the nature of the job. I don't necessarily think that reflects on paper as good of a job as he's doing, you know, visually to watch him play.
No, I think that's a good, valid point. You know, none of the goals that I've seen have been his fault. The downside to being a goalkeeper is when you make an error, it's so glaring that everyone remembers it. And he made his opening save was an error. But since then, he's been pretty flawless. And like you've said, he couldn't have been blamed for any of the goals that we've conceded. Naturally, he's part of a back line that want to keep clean sheets. And that's what we're going to try to build on, no doubt, moving forward.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned that goal in particular against Watford. Very keen not to make a repeat of that this evening. But I think the way his form has developed and the way he's been playing, it doesn't, you know, that was just a silly kind of one-off mistake, and he has really established himself now. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, he backs himself, and the fact that he backs himself means he's got confidence in his all-round game. You know, he's not particularly huge in terms of a goalkeeper stature. He's very agile.
Yeah.
And I think the players will no doubt trust him.
Oh yeah, he can get down on the ground quick.
Yeah.
Right, Watford boss then, Tom Cleverley. He will not be on the touchline this evening, actually, after receiving a red card in Watford's last game. He is, though, a former teammate of Wayne Rooney, and he's looking forward to tonight's game, even though he won't be right here in the thick of it to see it.
Going to be like sitting in the stands, probably for the first time as a manager, it must be.
Yeah, I think that there are some benefits of it. You see the game from a better angle. You see the game from a little less emotional side and can be a bit more strategic. And yeah, it's difficult to get messages onto the players at the best of times. So I don't feel I'll be missing too much. Your work as a coach is done very much so through the week, and then substitutes play a big part in that. And the timing of those, and I'll still be able to impact the game from there. It's been full on, but I feel like the international breaks have come at the right time now. We've done as much research, preparation as we possibly can to prepare ourselves for this next period, which is going to be intense. But I feel super prepared for it.
You touched on it there for you and the players Friday night. Do you feel a bit for the fans as well?
Yeah, of course. It's a game I played in when I was on loan here, and I think that was a night game also that my family went to, and so I know from the supporters' point of view of how inconvenient it can be. So it's up to us to make sure it's all worth it for those guys.
There we go, hearing from the opposition there. Aaron, you know, what have you made of their form so far this season? How realistic is an Argyle win looking, do you think?
Very. I think it really is. They're really erratic on the road. I said earlier, you know, they've lost 6. All the games that they lost have been on the road, and they've shipped goals as well. They conceded 4 at Norwich. They conceded 3 at Preston. You know, so they're not like they're watertight. You know, I know they beat Sheffield Wednesday 6-2 the other week, but they still conceded 2. So they're very open, Aaron. They tend to play a back 3. Their wide players push on. So if they're very open, it means they're going to leave gaps at the back. Yeah. And hopefully we can capitalise on that this evening.
Do you see that as kind of one of the main routes for Argyle to really get in there?
I think it has to be. They have to start on the front foot. They have to, for me, they have to move the angle of the pass regularly and early to pull Watford apart. If they're already open, the more that you move them, the more gaps it creates, the more chances you can hopefully convert. Yeah, well, we know it's always a fun one here at Home Park. Again, I keep my fingers crossed it doesn't go down to the very last minute as usual, but you never know. Hopefully we get a win out of it and it's entertaining. And we are now 10 minutes away from kickoff, so it is pretty much time for us to hand over to the commentary team for you this evening. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't got your match passes, please do so now. You can get them over on the website. It's Charlie Price and Ian Stonebridge doing comms for you tonight, and me and Aaron will be back at half time. See you.